G'day Earthlings, Dr. Rank here, and welcome to Gaming Legends, the show that's officially famous due to a mega bug. Last year I attempted a shotless run of Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle to varying definitions of success. Turns out Ubisoft themselves were so impressed by it that they decided to send me a free copy of the sequel. I'm not gonna waste an opportunity like that, so can you beat Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope without shooting? Our goal is to beat the game without ever firing our weapons during gameplay. That means all combat commands that use the ZL button are completely banned. Additionally, as a bonus challenge, we'll also be avoiding the use of reaction-based techniques that also use weapons, such as Mario's Hero Sight or Rabbid Mario's Counter Blow. I mean, I'm not sure if you can technically shoot with boxing gloves, but he uses a punch as a projectile, so debate averted. And lastly, we'll be playing the entire game in Demanding Mode, the highest possible difficulty setting. The run is complete when we win the final boss battle. Without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Unlike the first game, which shackled our feet to do target practice, Sparks of Hope actually lets us finish the tutorial. Mario is able to move right out of the gate and can do so freely within his initial range until he fires his weapon. And even better, we can skip firing by just passing our turn with the Y button. Once the enemies get close enough, we can damage them with a dash. We only get one dash per turn though, so this isn't exactly going to be a speed run, but it's still enough to clear the first round. The second round takes away our weapons anyway, so we pretty much just play it casually. The rest of the tutorial is relatively simple, and also gives us the Starburst Spark to play with. This spark is very similar to M-Power from the first game, with one critical difference. The damage increase now applies to dashes. I recommend using this whenever possible, unless there aren't any enemies in range. Once we arrive at Beacon Beach, we gain access to the rest of our party. None of these guys have a legal damage source on their own, but Logan comes pre-equipped with the Reflector Spark. When this guy is active, a portion of the damage taken will be redirected back to the attacker. And in even better news, sparks aren't tied to any one character, letting us reassign them to whomever needs them the most. The first required battle in the game proper is against a horde of Bob-ombs, which are the easiest enemies to defeat in the entire game. They only have 1 HP, explode when defeated, can be thrown at other enemies, and don't even survive their own attack. And thanks to Peach's team barrier, which temporarily nullifies damage, their sacrifice will absolutely be in vain. The battle just before the Sunrise Temple is easy and gives us the Pyrosphere Spark, which has the ability to set our weapons on fire. I don't think I need to explain why that's not helpful for us. The Temple Rescue battle gave me a bit of trouble despite it being a reach area mission. Eventually I realized I could just delay hitting the buttons until after I took out all the enemies in the immediate area. Once I made that my strategy, I cleared the battle on the first try. Immediately after is our first major roadblock, the boss fight against Giant Wildclaw. The good news is we have a third party member in the form of Edge. That means a third dash per turn and damage reduction with the Exosphere Spark. Now, let me show you the bad news. Yup, that's right, this boss is explicitly programmed to be undashable. Before the battle, I bought as many power blocks from the item shop as possible. The power block is a throwable item that deals damage in an explosion. Unfortunately, I was only able to buy 5 of them before fighting this guy, which isn't nearly enough for the whole fight. But remember, we still have Reflector equipped, allowing Wildclaw to effectively take recoil damage from its own attacks. And if we combine it with Peach's team barrier, we won't take any damage ourselves from it. It'll be an incredibly slow battle though, as you need to wait for both abilities to recharge before you get another chance. To save time, I recommend unlocking the first team barrier cooldown upgrade in Peach's skill tree, letting it recharge at the same time as Reflector. After about half a dozen eternities, we can finally get Giant Wildclaw to stop hitting himself and obtain our first purified Dark Mess Energy Crystal.
Crystals. Of course.
At this point, I decided to put Mario back on the team for a while and unlock his Stomp ability, allowing him to damage enemies by landing on them after a team jump. I also recommend prioritizing each character's extra dash upgrades when applicable. And unlike Kingdom Battle, you're allowed to dash into the same enemy multiple times in one turn with the same character. Also, I found an out of bounds glitch completely by accident that probably has no speedrun applications. So that's cool. The second Beacon Beach crystal is locked behind a Dark Messiah mission, which is just terrible for us. Not only are the eyes undashable, they're also completely incapable of attacking us, making Reflector significantly less useful. Luckily, Bob-ombs appear in this battle, and they can be thrown to clear out multiple eyes at once. However, while more of them will spawn as the battle goes on, they don't respawn infinitely, turning any missed throw or premature explosion into a death sentence. But if we stock up on power blocks beforehand, we can get a stay of execution. My successful attempt did waste 1 power on a flaming stooge, but trust me, it was worth it. With our second crystal in hand, not only can we move on to Pristine Peaks, but we also get a new spark, Toxic Wake. This guy deals direct damage to all nearby enemies, poisoning them in the process. Poison, or ooze, causes enemies to take constant ship damage every single turn, and it's also contagious to everyone. I also upgraded Peach's team barrier to explode when it breaks. That being said, it was barely useful in this reach area mission, which is populated by deep freezers. These guys have a strong melee attack and an area of effect freeze technique they can use every other turn. Frozen characters can't move, which is a problem when their main source of damage requires you to walk. And the cleansing jump from the first game doesn't exist here, so they're basically an ice sculpture now. But by adopting a more defensive strategy, I was able to reach the goal on my second try. Once we reach the summit, we get to equip 2 sparks per character, which will be immensely helpful. For Peach specifically, I added Ethering? The ghost one, it makes you invisible. Handy for sneaking past the scopers when they activate Villain Sight. The stone masks you need to destroy here are just as undashable as the Dark Messiahs, and even do one better by being immune to Toxic Wake. But thankfully, Bob-ombs respawn infinitely this time, and they aren't quite smart enough to seek shelter from the wind. After entering the Winter Palace and clearing out the first battle, we unlock Pyrogeddon, who makes fire rain from the sky. And unlike Toxic Wake, this attack isn't restricted to a single layer. The fight against Midnight is one of the only 4-person battles in the game, with the 4th slot occupied by Rabbid Rosalina. Her unique ability is Ennui, which temporarily immobilizes nearby enemies. While it doesn't deal damage directly, it can cause the enemy to take more damage after the fact with the Wake Up Slap upgrade. She also only gets a single dash, but we can use it to ennui an extra enemy, greatly increasing our odds of survival. Midnight herself has a tendency to teleport, but she is vulnerable to dashes, and her only elemental resistance is ice, which we can't wield anyway. The fight does have 3 phases, but each individual phase sets a checkpoint as well as a save point. Not that I needed them, since I was able to beat her first try. Moving on to Palette Prime, we unlock Beepo's scan ability, allowing hidden paths and objects to appear in the overworld. Technically, this ability is triggered with the ZL button, but claiming that X-ray vision counts as shooting would be absolutely ridiculous. We also have our first encounter with Depleters, who have vampiric shots and a strong counter technique. Luckily, the counter is only triggered by weapons, so it basically becomes a non-factor. Also, while I didn't get to use it in the actual run, I found a pretty stupid strategy for finding the magicians on the bridge. If you dash a Goomba while it has a team barrier, they'll be carryable while still at full health. Since they have 130 HP and only lose 10 when thrown, you can throw the same Goomba at the same enemy over and over again up to 13 times. Then we get to the boss. The good news is we're forced to use Bowser for this battle, and this guy is an absolute powerhouse. Not only can he do a ground pound to deal damage after a team jump, which sees much utility in such a trampoline-dense area, He also has the only non-reaction technique that deals direct damage, Rabid Mecha Koopas. These guys work like sentries from the first game, chasing down their target between turns and exploding when near them. They can also be thrown to get them closer, and they make pretty decent vegetarian meat shields. The only downside is that they can't target Dark Mess eyes directly, but can still take them out accidentally, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. The bad news is that this boss battle is against Bedrock, who has an infinitely high defense stat. At this point of the game, our attacks all deal at least 100 damage by default against normal enemies. Bedrock, meanwhile, always takes damage in the single digits. In a normal playthrough, you'd lure her over to the explosive barrels and make her stomp on them, dealing a couple thousand damage at once. But the only way to make her stomp is to shoot her, so we're forced to chip away at her slowly while monitoring the growth rate of the front lawn. My first and only attempt at this battle took me over 4 hours, and that's if you don't count pausing to attend my day job. As usual, you can speed up the battle significantly by using Reflector with the Team Barrier. I also recommend not buying the Flaming Rabid Mecha Koopas upgrade yet, as Bedrock is completely fireproof. After the universe died and reformed a dozen times, Bedrock finally eroded. The rest of Palette Prime doesn't have much to talk about, but we do get a couple more sparks from the main quests. Zephyrquake can push enemies away with heavy wind, and Electrogeddon can sing a specific Disney song. We're not quite done with Palette Prime yet though. I stuck around for a while and completed 9 planet coins worth of side quests to unlock the Spellbound key from the shop. This item grants access to this planet's secret zone, which houses another helpful spark. Wildclaw Master will summon a Wildclaw that's on our side, and since he's not doing a shotless run, he has no restrictions whatsoever. Well, except for his tendency to target explosive barrels without actually doing anything. On Terra Flora, we befriend Aquaquake, who can summon a tidal wave at will. Though it didn't help much with the Wiggler boss fight. You have to destroy 16 Dark Mess eyes within 12 turns, and none of the eyes appear on ground level. The only reliable method of attacking them is with the elemental rain sparks like Pyrogeddon and Electrogeddon, which have a 3-turn cooldown between charges. To make matters worse, the eyes don't spawn all at once, instead appearing in 3 waves. Each wave only spawns at the end of the turn when the previous wave has been dealt with. You'll want to aim for as many multi-kills as possible, and make liberal use of trampolines to get from one end of the train to the other in a hurry. The second Terra Flora crystal is a simple mission tasking us with destroying the damn walls, but their only weakness is explosive potions, so we basically just play it normally. This also gives us Pulsar, who can revive dead teammates. Not necessary right now, but I'll definitely keep you in mind for later. We can also get 2 more sparks from this planet's side quests. Solomon's Despair gives us the Oozer Master, who gives us another useful summon, and the Secret Zone gives us Cryogeddon, who can create a hailstorm at will. Barrendale Mesa introduces Magic Koopas, who are some of the hardest enemies to fight. In addition to having explosive shots, they're resistant to all elemental attacks, which severely hampers all of our spark powers. But with a little persistence and a healthy amount of Wildclaw summons, we can beat them all and recruit Gargantufan. This guy is very similar to Zephyrquake, but deals way more damage. Though I guess that's to be expected when it literally uses one of the strongest bosses in the series. Our real troubles on Barrendale began at the windmill. You need to protect the generators from enemy attacks for 8 turns. Each generator can only take 3 hits, and if all 4 get destroyed, you're dead. There are some shock traps on the floor that can be used to aid in your defense, but the switches to activate them are difficult to reach without shooting. I only managed to trigger the switch once when my Oozer randomly shot it, and even then, it did more harm to me. By the time turn 8 had rolled around, Bowser and Peach had both died, and 2 of the generators had been destroyed, with the last 2 only having 2 hits left. I did my best to take out the closest enemy, but couldn't quite manage it. So I healed with a mushroom chest, jumped to the balcony, and prayed. Thankfully, the Riptide I failed to assassinate stopped just short of the generator, meaning I got the crystal with 1 hit left. The boss fight against Daphne was one of the more interesting moments in the run. She sits on an isolated perch at the highest point in the level, making shockwave attacks difficult to land. My preferred strategy was to get Bowser onto her tower directly, then unleash all 5 Rabid Mecha Koopas on her at the same time. We do need to do this 3 times as she resets our position with each new phase, but uprooting this weed isn't too bad. There are still a couple of summon-based sparks left on Barrendale Mesa, and while the Squashette Master would be nice, I'm more interested in the Scoper Master. This guy just requires 1 singular side quest, and it's a doozy. A Dark Messiah mission and a Protection mission combined into one. Make sure your team is made entirely of sparks that make shockwaves and rain, and make sure to only use them while in range of at least 1 eye. My successful attempt only managed to just barely survive long enough to destroy the final eye with Bowser's ground pound. And with that, we are now finally ready to enter the endgame, Cursor's Stronghold. Oh, Cursor. That's clever. By this point, you should hopefully have enough coins for a full team heal between each battle, which I highly recommend. The battles against Darkmess Bowser and Darkmess Edge are both 4-person battles, forcing you to use their respective vanilla counterparts. I found both of them to be relative pushovers, but do not advise underestimation. After all, they're not doing a shotless run, and thus have no reason to hold back. You'll want to stay near each other for Darkmess Bowser so you can get lots of dashes in, and split up for Darkmess Edge so she doesn't try to use all her dashes on one target. And with one final visit to the item shop, we enter the final battle against Cursor. This battle uses our entire party at once, with 3 separate battlefields to cycle between. Each battlefield needs to keep all its heroes alive, or else it's game over. The fight also has 3 phases, with each new phase granting an opportunity to save, heal, and rearrange your sparks. You'll want every single damage dealer equipped for obvious reasons, but you can also use the useless ones like Pyrosphere for passive elemental immunity. In Phase 1, Cursor attacks with its Astral Hands, locking onto a single target and attacking them at the end of the turn. While aerial attacks like Pyrogeddon can deal damage, the faster method is to summon spikes with the trampolines and lure the hands near them. Just be careful with using summons here. If a hand locks onto a summoned ally and tries to grab them, the battle will become soft-locked. And if it attacks a Rabid Mecha Koopa, it leads to an outright crash. In Phase 2, we can start attacking Cursor directly, but it rests beyond the edge of the battlefield where shockwave sparks can't reach it. The elemental rain can still damage it, but sometimes it'll just decide not to. The more reliable methods are to use the Oozer and Scoper summons, as well as Peach's trusty Barrier Reflector combo. With Rosalina freed from Cursor's control, we move on to Phase 3. In this phase, you're supposed to shoot the giant wands to charge up Rosalina's one-hit KO super attack, with the first 2 charges being intentionally wasted on Cursor's wings. While the attack itself is legal since it doesn't use the ZL button, charging it is the issue. The wands are out of reach for dashes, don't respond to any shockwaves, rain, or thrown items, and summons completely ignore them for some reason. But by having Peach reflect the laser attack, we can deal damage directly to Cursor itself. After about an hour and a half, Cursor's HP reached 0. But nothing happened. The game acknowledges that Cursor has been defeated, but doesn't declare the battle legally won. Turns out the win condition isn't defeating Cursor as the game says. The win condition is triggering Rosalina's super attack when both wings have been destroyed. I was able to destroy the wings with about 2 hours of shockwave spam, but we still don't have a way to hit the wands. At literally the last possible moment, the Sparks of Hope shotless run has officially failed. But this game is only a month old, so new tricks may yet be discovered in the future. And with 3 waves of DLC still to come, I don't think I'm quite done with this game yet. In the meantime, you can watch the run on my archive channel via the link in the description. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next challenge run. And this time, I'll be streaming it live. That's all for now, and I will see you down under.